So apparently this is one of the worst things that I've done in my life. At least that's what people tell me. I find it funny, and I have video like receipts of it, so I've never told this story before. My senior year of high school, we would get out a couple periods earlier than all of the rest of the school. And so it's around March, and it's not really one of those days in March where it's nice. It's one of those days where it's like 35, like just above freezing. It's blowing 20. It's just crappy weather, right? And so me and my friends were all walking out to the senior parking lot, right? So my school had two giant parking lots on either side of the school. You had the junior parking lot and the senior parking lot. And so when you were walking to the senior parking lot, we would all park on the far end of it. And just beyond that was this patch of grass that kind of had like a ridge in it, you know? So every time it would rain a lot, which it had been the last couple days, it would fill up with water. I don't know about y'all, but you probably have one friend like this. We have a friend. I'm not going to tell you his name just out of respect for him, but every time, if you just bet him enough money, he would do anything, right? Now, the best part about the friend that I had that was like this, it was very ironic because when he was growing up, his parents, they would bring up the idea of not falling into peer pressure a lot. But if this man was willing to get paid, he would do just about anything. And so we all get there, we see all the water in this ditch, right? And that's when it kind of like clicks in my head. And I'm like, yo, I'll give you 40 bucks if you dive in there, but you gotta like really dive. And it can't be, you know, like low effort. Like you gotta really, you know, like hit it. You gotta dive. And he's thinking about it for a second, and I could just see that look on his face starting to change, like the expression. He's like, I could just tell it's marinating. He's thinking about the 40 bucks. He's like, man, this is like a 5-second activity. This is an easy 40 bucks. And mind you, as he's debating this, it's still raining outside. It's cold as crap. The wind's blowing like 20. And his parents are waiting for him, or at least his mom is waiting for him at home because there was somewhere they needed to go as soon as he got out of school. So he was supposed to get in the car and drive right home. Oh man, I'm laughing just thinking about this story. And so he agrees, and he starts like, he's stretching out. I'm about to play you the video just so you can see it. It cracks me up even just thinking about it. The other thing we didn't account for is the fact that the water would not be that deep. I'm just gonna play the clip. You watch it.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Come on, bro.
Oh, nah. Every time, remember.
Oh, nah. Oh, nah. Oh, shit.
And so he's soaked, right? He gets in the car, he's driving home, and I don't hear from him for a couple hours. I wish I could have him like come here and just tell you the story, the rest of the story, just so it made it better. But he calls me up. He was like, I'm not sure if that $40 was worth it. And I'm like, why? He was like, I pulled up to my driveway, right? I'm coming inside the house. I'm hoping that my mom is not home for some reason. He's like, I see her car. He immediately just has like that dread inside, but he's freezing, right? This man borderline has like hypothermia. Like I said, it was probably 35 degrees outside that day when he jumped in the water, and his shoes were so soaked that he didn't want to take those in, so he took them off and left them in the garage. And he was hoping, all right, maybe she's in her office, maybe she's in the bathroom, maybe she's in her room, maybe she's not, you know, where she's gonna see me when I come in. And so he opens up the garage door, and it connects right to the kitchen. And you can imagine, like, he walks into the doorway, and she's like sitting in the kitchen already mad that he's late with her arms crossed, and he looks at her. He said he just speed walked past her going up the stairs, and because his socks were soaked, you know, like the wet sock sound that make like the squish sound with every step? He said the room was completely silent, and his mom's just staring at him. He's like avoiding eye contact as he's walking straight forward, and each time you just hear the like the little squishing of the socks just over and over again. Oh dude, I wish I had him here to tell you this story, because bro, every time he tells it, it happened 3 years ago, and it still gets me cracking up. Even looking at the video gets me cracking up. And I was gonna say, as a kid, we would just do dumb stuff, right? Like just to, you know, burn time, to waste time. But honestly, we did that stuff all the way up till I graduated high school. We just did dumb stuff. But one thing I always remember about my childhood is we got good at being bored. Does that make sense? Like, even the back of my neighborhood had a giant drainage pond, right? You probably know what I'm talking about if you live in a neighborhood. If not, it's like this big pond where all of like the water that goes into your streets and stuff like that, when it rains, it all ends up there. And so it all comes in through this giant black plastic tube. It's so big that you can pretty much kind of like squat a little bit and you could walk inside of it. That's how big it is. And so one time we walked back there, and there was a piece of that tubing that they had taken off and they weren't using it. It was at the top of the hill of the drainage pond, and our drainage pond had multiple hills in it, right? And so of course this is just dudes doing dude stuff. We just all started getting in there and taking turns pushing each other down the hill, right? Like, that's the type of stuff we did growing up. We got good at being bored. And nowadays when kids are like 12, 13, or even younger than that, they can just get on the iPad or scroll TikTok, or there's much worse things that they can find on the internet. You probably know what I'm talking about. And when you're a child, it doesn't really mess you up that much, in the sense that it's not like it's destroying something you're trying to build, right? The only problem is all of us now, at least in my generation, I know I'm at least guilty of this. I'll just talk about me. I know I was guilty of this for a long time. Is like, I started to scroll so much, I almost had TikTok brain. That's what I call it, where I just needed artificial dopamine so much that it would mess with my business or mess with my productivity, or even like the time in which you're supposed to go to the gym and then you open up your phone to scroll for 5 minutes and then you scroll for 45 and then it's like 6:30 and you're like, man, I low-key don't even have time to go to the gym anymore. Like, it can actually mess up your life if you're that addicted to artificial dopamine. If you really do have, they call it like brain rot or whatever, like TikTok brain. And I tell you these different stories really just to show you that something we lost in the last couple years, especially with like short form content, is we lost the ability to be bored. We lost the ability to be okay with doing nothing. We lost the ability to just sit in boredom. And you know, I talk to you about Christ-focused self-improvement all the time. I've said this before. I think one of the reasons people don't hear from God as much as they actually want to, right, in prayer or anything like that, is because our mind is so overstimulated. We have the inability to be able to just sit in silence and wait on God. Or we have the inability to do long, deep work time in which we work on our business for 4 or 5 hours at a time, or anything like this. And so one of the best things, we're right here. I'm gonna post this video actually, I think, on New Year's Day. So that's actually the perfect time to do this. So yeah, I'm gonna upload this on New Year's Day. One of the best things you can do to start off 2025, even if you're seeing this a little after New Year's, just do it, is take like 5 to 7 days and delete everything off your phone. Delete Instagram, delete TikTok, delete everything, and do a dopamine detox. Honestly, this is how I would treat it. Maybe even not even put a time limit on it. I wouldn't start scrolling again or get back those apps until you feel like you no longer have TikTok brain, until you can sit down and read 50 pages of a book and it doesn't feel so boring and tedious. Granted, you gotta read a good book. I even noticed that when my dopamine was just so overloaded like that, I felt less social too. I've heard people even use the term like socially autistic almost, where you just feel there's almost like an inability to just talk with people as well, to just have conversation. Or it's almost like your mind is so overstimulated that when you're having a conversation, there's almost like this internal dialogue that's going on about something perhaps completely different. And I noticed once I just did a dopamine detox period, it doesn't have to be crazy long, but it does have to be intentional. You're intentional about the fact that you want to be bored, right? Because that's basically what's going to happen. You want to be bored. It's like you reset your brain, and you're going to be on like a different level from everyone else, especially if you want to do business or really grow spiritually or anything like that. I think this is one of the best things that you could do. Even when I think about things like lust, I still feel like I struggled with it the most when my screen time was higher, because it's like you leave yourself susceptible to seeing something that's going to make you feel lustful, and then perhaps you relapse or something like that. So I just think it's one of the most powerful things you can do. Just be intentional about it. Take 5 days, take 3 days, even just take 2 days. Let yourself know, okay, look, I'm going into this trying to be bored the next 2 days. I'm not gonna scroll, I'm not gonna watch YouTube, I'm not gonna listen to music, I'm not gonna do any of this stuff, and I'm just gonna let myself be bored for 2 days and watch how your brain resets. I really think this is a powerful thing. It's almost like a fast of social media to start the year. I really think this is one of the most powerful things you can do to really make 2025 your best year. But that's pretty much the video. If you are struggling with lust, January 12th, I'm going to be doing a 100% free webinar on how to conquer lust. I'm trying to do 800 people this time. Last time I did like 470. I want to try and have 800 people in for my live webinar. So if you did find this helpful, you want to sign up to that, be down in the description below. But if you found this helpful, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Be blessed, bro.